Thank you all for joining us today. Good morning. The simple act of music making together has become one of the most powerful tools for social transformation, whether in villages in Kenya, schools in New Brunswick in Canada, refugee communities in Sweden, or on busy streets in Chennai. Teaching of music is helping children find their voices, rebuild confidence, and imagine new possibilities for their futures. Each of the programs represented here began in response to a local need, and the responses have been remarkable. Classrooms turned into orchestras, young people discovering leadership and belonging, and communities strengthened through social connection. Today's conversation brings together 4 extraordinary individuals whose work is transformative for their students. In Kenya, Elizabeth Njoroge, founder and executive director of the Art of Music Foundation, has created opportunities for students to pursue classical music, and in doing so has redefined what cultural inclusion and excellence can look like in East Africa. In India, Dr. Adam Greg leads the KM Music Conservatory in Chennai, a collaboration with legendary composer A.R. Rahman's foundation that brings performance, technology, and education, connecting students to an ever-expanding global creative landscape. In Canada, Ken Mainville, president and CEO of Systema New Brunswick, oversees the largest youth music program in the country, one that has reshaped arts access in his province and stands as a model of community engagement nationwide. And joining us from Sweden, Ron Davis Alvarez, founder of the Dream Orchestra, works with refugee and immigrant youth students, transforming stories of displacement into stories of resilience and hope. Guiding the discussion is our moderator, Dr. Lee Willingham, professor at Wilfrid Laurier University, a scholar, conductor, and lifelong champion of community music, whose research and leadership have helped generations of educators understand how music builds both character and community. Together, these speakers will remind us that while their settings are different, their purpose is shared. Today, they will show us how music, when offered with compassion and imagination, can be a lifeline for children and provide possibility, no matter where. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lee Willingham and our distinguished panelists.
Still hear me, right? Okay. Now my mic is on. First time with the mic, sorry. So, as Evelyn mentioned in her introduction, this panel is talking about the transforming power of music education in the lives of children. And we have 4 very intriguing and diverse speakers today that really span the corners of the world where music education is taking place. So the format today will be, first we're just going to go around the horn here and have them introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their program in a very general way, and then we will go and dive in a little deeper, and they will talk about the various things about their program that they really want you to know about. And then there'll be time for questions or comments at the end. And if you have a question in the middle and you really want to, it's a burning question and you really want someone to respond to it, just let me know. We can do that, right? We're not scripted too closely that you won't throw us off to do that. So let's start with Adam, and then we'll just ask you to introduce yourself, your program, and your location.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm Adam Gregg. I was correctly introduced there as the artistic director for KM Music Conservatory, which is a music education center in Chennai in South India. But I'm actually here today with one of my other hats, which is with our outreach project called the Sunshine Orchestra. Both projects were set up by A.R. Rahman back in 2008. And his Sunshine Orchestra project started with two aims in mind. One was a very charity-worthy aim, and one was a very selfish personal aim. He wanted to try to bring to India the kind of music education that he had never received when he was growing up. And he wanted to provide that education to anybody who wanted to take part in it, particularly the school kids in the school opposite his office, where he would look out and say, I want to bring them music. And from a very, very selfish side from him, he also wanted to stop having to hire European orchestras to record his film music. So he wanted to train his own orchestra so that he would be able to do his own film recordings within India itself. And that really became the modus operandi of the Sunshine Orchestra. Provide music education for children who had no access to education for music, and provide them with a career plan within the creative arts as a recording and touring orchestra. We haphazardly stumbled through the years from 2008 in many ways, because as with many famous composers, they say go and they don't plan anything after that, and there's just, is my orchestra ready yet? But we started our string program. They're our most advanced. We have our eldest string players with us in Toronto just now. They're performing on Thursday. Our brass program started 8 years after the string program, and we finally finished our orchestral families in 2023 with the addition of woodwind and percussion. I have a short introduction video, hopefully, from the AV team, which just gives a kind of overview and idea of some of the performances and shape and feel of what the orchestra are. If we can maybe have it. Or maybe not. Other set of slides. I think this is yours.
That's a program from Nairobi.
Video. Nope. That's all right.
Can we, do you not have it? Or if you have it, you could cue it up and let us know. We'll get back to Adam momentarily. Let's move on to Ron.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Ron Davis Alvarez. I'm from Venezuela, but I live in Sweden. And I have an organization with a non-profit organization called Dream Orchestra. We founded in 2016 when the huge wave of refugees arrived to Europe from Afghanistan and from Syria. We are an organization who been working with more than 1,000 kids. Now we have around 500 kids in our program. And we support and cooperate with refugee camps in the Middle East and in Ukraine. And I also work with, through Dream Orchestra, cooperation with an orphanage in Umanak Children's Home in Greenland. So, yeah.
Thank you. I'm Elizabeth Choroge, and maybe those pictures you had can come up as I speak. I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, and sitting up here, I do feel like an imposter, that thing called imposter syndrome, because I am not a musician by training. I am a pharmacist who loves music. And in 2008, I met a priest who ran a community church in one of Nairobi's poorest neighborhoods called Korogosho, right next to our landfill. And he was like, I have these children who sing in church, in mass. Do you think you can teach them how to sing? Because I am I'm an amateur singer, let me say. And I was like, of course I can, no problem. And I had no idea what I was doing. And over the last 17 years, I continue to feel that way. However, somehow our 14 children have grown to over 1,000 children in 3 locations. We have a community orchestra in Korogosho, in a place called Mukuru, and more recently in Mombasa. Maybe those slides could come up now, so maybe people can get an idea. The organization is called the Art of Music Foundation, and our whole motto is making music make a difference. So first and foremost, that is absolutely what we focus on, bringing these kids in to play music, to dance, and to sing. And so having them there was what we started with, and many other things have grown from that, and I will come to it. But our program is all about using music to transform the lives of very, very vulnerable kids, and some of them end up being amazing musicians, but most of them won't be. But having gone through the process of learning music, their lives are forever changed, and that's what we strongly believe in. They can just, not really, but that's our background. That's this landfill right behind us, and that's a girl called Sandrine who plays the trumpet. She doesn't play the trumpet with us anymore. She does it elsewhere, and she has a little girl, but she is a big mentor and an important person in this community. These pictures really just give you a feeling of the environment that we teach in, and maybe we'll come back to that when I talk more in depth about our program and the challenges that we face. But the thing that brings the kids to us, the thing that holds them there and helps us mold them and guide them into adulthood is music and dance and song. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Is this on? Yeah, there we go. I'm Ken Mainville from Saskatchewan, New Brunswick. And earlier this year, I had the privilege to be in the lobby of the National Arts Centre in Ottawa. And the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra had just performed Mahler's First Symphony. And I was approached by some people in the lobby, and they identified themselves as a group of retired diplomats, and I could tell from the group that they were from all over the world. There was probably about 6 or 7 of them, and they'd come out to this concert. And they had a spokesperson who approached and told me about this, and he said, he was a Canadian with them, and he said, we have a question for you. And he said, how does New Brunswick do this? And it was a loaded question, and as I describe our program today, I hope to answer that question for you today here. I'll just give you a little background. I first got involved with the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra as a parent. I'm not a musician either, but I had 4 children who are musicians, and 2 of them were in the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra. And I was really amazed at what this program was doing with my children. I could see them thriving and exploring this whole new world for them. And it was around the time that I met Ken MacLeod, who's the founder of the Saskatchewan New Brunswick program. He was the chair of the board of directors of the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra then, and he shared this vision that he had of bringing an El Sistema, a Sistema-based program to New Brunswick, and I was really inspired, and so much so that I was advocating alongside the board, and then they invited me to join the board. So that was years ago. That was 16 years ago, roughly. And so I've experienced the progression of this organization from the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra to being a board member, parent, so forth, and now coming back to work with them as the CEO. And I'll just tell you this, the first 40 years of the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra, which started in 1965, it was defined as one thing, or it was just one thing. It was 70 of the province's top young orchestral musicians who would audition and get into this and tour the province, and also further than the province. They did tours to all over the world. but it was limited to who could be, it was only 70 kids, and it was really only those that could afford private lessons, instruments, travel, all of those things. And when the in-school music education began to decline in New Brunswick, Ken MacLeod and the other leaders at the time thought, we're in trouble. Eventually, we're going to have no one to audition for the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra, or very few. So they were looking to solve that problem, and that's when Ken first came across the El Sistema story. And he was inspired and said, oh, this is something we could do in New Brunswick, and it wouldn't just solve the problem of having a feeder system, but it would also be something that would be a social development tool, that we could actually change lives of children. And so 16 years later, we now have this vast network of orchestras throughout the province. We have probably 15 orchestras. We're in 11 cities, or 11 centers, some rural, some urban. And we have 5 regional youth orchestras. And throughout the year, we'll do probably 150 concerts in New Brunswick, and we have a total audience of about 50 to 80,000 a year would come to our concerts. We employ 75 full-time professional teaching artists now. We're the largest employer of professional artists in Atlantic Canada. And when we first started the Sistema New Brunswick program, it was considered, or it was, a program of the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra. And now 16 years later, it's still the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra is still open to audition for anyone in the province, but over 95% of the members are children who've grown up in the Sistema New Brunswick program. So we're now looking at it, realizing that the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra is the senior level of our Sistema New Brunswick program. So it's come full circle.
Thank you. So in our discussions about planning this, we talked about what do we want you to know? Like, what is it that is important on our hearts and minds for you to know? And so each of the speakers will have a different perspective for you to share. They're culturally diverse, but the unifying factor is the music. And so I'm going to throw a question out there. When we walk out on the street and we say, are you a musician? What do you think the answer will be? No, I'm not, right? Why? Oh, but I do play the guitar, or I do sing in a choir, but I'm not a musician. What we've done is we've kind of rarefied the label of a musician as being somebody who is a professional, makes a living at it, is highly, highly skilled. And so we know about teaching music is about skills and artistic creativity and expression. But this panel, I think all 4 of the speakers have talked about the social impact that music has made in their community. And I'm going to throw that out there as maybe a topic you want to address. Beyond the notes, getting the notes sounding good, getting the music sounding good, giving the kids a sense of accomplishment and pride and identity as a musician, how has it affected the community socially and culturally? But anyway, I'm opening it up to you again to give us more about what you'd like to hear us to hear.
You look ready.
Okay. Oh, well, I would like to say that since this panel is about transforming life of kids through music education, I was one of that kids that being transformed to music when I started in El Sistema. In our program, Dream Orchestra, we always have 3 important pillars that we are always thinking when we really want to make an impact into the society. One is the social aspect, the artistic or pedagogical, and the management. There are 3 pillars that we always are thinking, especially when we want to not only get to the society and to empower the community. And every time we have to think what are the real impact that we're making with those people who are come to, for example, to Sweden. we always think, how are we really doing the right thing? In what way are we doing? So we are always evaluating what is the real impact that we're making. Because when we always about transforming life of people, people always think that it's their kids, and I agree with that. But we also need to talk about the teachers, how we can be an inspired teacher for the people who are receiving the class. I think the transforms happen with a great teacher. When you have a teacher who inspires you, when you have a teacher who has clear message, when it's a person who cares about you, because most of the time, and I tell by my personal story, when I introduced to my first music class, I just didn't want to play an instrument. I just wanted to feel someone. I wanted to be a person who have a message, or I wanted to be someone who have happy in the moments where there's so much difficult. And this is exactly every time they go to my program or to any refugees camp or place that we are teaching, is that I know that what they want at that moment is to feel safe, to feel a place where they can be themselves, to be a place where they cannot be judged, a place where music become a channel or a tool for being inspired. They don't come there because they want to transform their life. They don't know exactly, I want this, my life changed. I tell you, the first time I came to a concert, I was looking more for the food than for the concert itself. So it was another motivation there. But the teacher, I still remember my first class. I still remember teachers who inspired me. And I think that point is where the transformation start to happen with relationship, with that co-relationship with students, with the parents, with the community. And if there are no parents, like in our case, because we have unaccompanied minors who came and the parents are in their countries, in Afghanistan, or then first you have to know that you cannot become their parents. That's very important, because you have to know that I would love to be the parent of all the kids, but you become their family. You become a person that they are looking, they are there and asking, that they know that they can be connected. So I wanted to bring to the table and these three aspects, because in the management then we have all this sustainable part, the budget, and all issues that we have of a program. And in the community, it's how to engage the community and how to be connecting with them. But please don't forget that if we inspired our teachers, our team, to make an incredible class to every kid, there is when the transformative life change happen. Is when the music then become a tool for changing life, I think.
So Ron, I'm trying to pare this down, this transformation process, to what is it really? And I think what I'm getting from you is that it's about belonging. It's about identity as part of something bigger. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and especially belonging and the importance of an strategic of your program. We always, in the Dream Orchestra, when we have the planning meetings, and we are, the world that we are living now, that we know that we're receiving a lot of refugees and arriving a lot of Ukrainians, and we are planning when we have to replan, and because there are more kids coming, and I think that it's very important to have an strategy which connects this artistic and social part together to be able, because if you go only with the social aspects of belonging, probably the result, it will be not as strong as if you think with different points.
Good, thank you. Who else would like to jump in? Elizabeth.
Thank you. I really want to follow on with the belonging thing. When we started our program, this is classical music in an informal settlement in East Africa. It's a genre that is very unknown there. Everybody is listening to reggae, honestly, and local artists. And so when we first started, there was, of course, a lot of suspicion. And this is very, very foreign, and who is she? And I come from perhaps the other side of the tracks, and so the children, their families, looked at me very suspiciously and thought, maybe I am trying to get some money using their name, and then, that sort of thing. But over the years, that has 100% changed. Because we look at the whole child in our program, and for many years, I would say that we're first a social program before we're a music program. And then maybe that has changed a little bit because we could not ignore the other issues that our kids were going through. For instance, you talked about food, if they don't have food, or if they're not in school, or if they're sick. So our program has grown well beyond just music. And so we have partners who help us pay school fees for our children. We have an urban garden that we have developed where we grow food for our kids, and we have partners as well who give us, we don't want to have a feeding kitchen in our program because that would change things, but we definitely every week will give them vegetables from our garden, and there's an organization that gives us that, and they then go back. We've held medical camps. We do a lot of mentorship where we call people to come and talk to our kids, especially during the school holidays, whether it is something as simple as how to write your CV or how to open a bank account. There's a lot about sexual health because we do lose a lot of girls to early pregnancies. And so our program in that sense has grown over the years to look at the whole child. But it has been at the expense of perhaps those who are really musically talented in our program. And we do have a few of those because, first of all, just leave alone the resources not being enough, but we were not paying enough attention to our music education program. So we had our kids there and they have a place to be and they feel safe. They're not at home where there are so many other issues. They're not on the street. And I remember during COVID when the country shut down for a minute, and I went to the chief in the area and I said, if you don't let me stay open, these children will become your problem. So please, let me keep my music program. And he agreed. But beyond that, then now we have an issue that those who are really gifted do not get the attention that they want. And so now, in our later years, that is now the avenue we are trying to pursue, where we can identify talented children and put them on another pathway. And that has taken many shapes because classical music is relatively new in Eastern Africa. And so, especially with the strings, because of our British colonial past, brass instruments are many and brass teachers are many, but string instruments and string teachers are few. And that's where technology has come in. So for instance, with our top string students, we have a program with Juilliard. And we have Skype was before, Zoom lessons. Every student will get at least 1 hour of a Zoom class every week. And of course, there are challenges with electricity, with blah, 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 time difference, but it still happens. But, we now have, most recently, we have some kids who have made it into conservatories, both in North America and in Europe, our top students. But the best part of it is that now, with the El Sistema feeling that if you know 2 notes, you teach one. Yeah. And so all our teachers, 42 of them, are all students who have come through the program. Yeah. And so we have a way of teaching them. They're not yet as good as elsewhere, but we are doing our very best to ensure that our top is able to teach down. And so our music education program starts to get better. But at the heart of it is that this child is safe, this child has a place they can come and hang out, and if they're really good at music and dance, because we have a very strong dance program now, they also have a new pathway. But we're looking at the whole child. Yeah.
This is so intriguing that all of you so far have mentioned the need for excellent music education as the key focus, but the other parts of it are equally important, I think. And I do a lot of work in community music, and one of the things we say there, and maybe it's just a bit of a sarcastic thing, but I think it's true, that a lot of times in the traditional academy, the perfection and excellence of the music has taken priority over the health and well-being of the musician. And we can flip that and say the health and well-being of the musician takes priority over the perfection of the music. The results typically are, if the musician is well, the music's pretty good. I'm not saying we don't teach music excellence, but I'm just saying that the way we've taught it in the past has done some damage in people's lives, right? So these are interesting comments. Ken?
Yeah, thanks. I'm hearing it come out. We have 4 key principles that guide us, and I'm hearing each of you are speaking to those in one way or another. And I think it's a balance between all these different ingredients. So I'll just name the 4 pillars that we have built this program on. And the first is inclusion. So we're looking for the children that would otherwise be considered left out. We're not the music program for the masses, but we work with our partners. The government of New Brunswick has been a funding partner and a partner since the beginning. So we have the school districts and the schools themselves that work with us. So we go through an application process, but we get the teachers who know the students to help us identify the kids who would really benefit from a program like this. So we're prioritizing those kids who are left out. And then they're getting this experience of having an adult interacting with them in a very positive, loving, encouraging way, and they're feeling accepted and they're part of a group. So let me talk with the next piece. So inclusion, intensity is one of our key pillars. It's 5 days a week, 3 hours a day for the whole school year. That's over 600 hours of lessons from highly skilled teachers that these children are getting day after day. That intensity is part, we changed the mission of the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra organization those 16 years ago. We changed it to inspiring children and youth to achieve their full potential through the tool, through learning and performing orchestral music. Then excellence is our third pillar. And we're finding that when the kids in the program begin to experience the success of playing at the National Arts Center with the standing ovation that went on and on and on. They were playing with passion, intensity, joy. There's movement, the Venezuelan influences with our conductor, Antonio Delgado. He inspires these kids to really dive in and play, and they play. I don't know, was anyone there last night when they played a little bit? There's a few of you? Yeah. Well, if you get a chance to see, we have 100 of our kids with us. They're playing tomorrow night. They're going to do Dan Brown's Wild Symphony, which is a children's symphony. And Viggo Mortensen's going to step in for Dan Brown and narrate it's a children's book, and then there's movements that go with each little story. But it's quite a thing to see. And we're doing it with a partnership with Systema Toronto. So it's going to be a good night, a little plug for that. But the excellence piece, we're showing them that what they learn through experience is that hard work over time equals achievement. And there's like a moment where you can almost see it happening, where the child, and I've actually heard them say it. I asked one group of cellists, I asked them, so they were 12, 13 years old. I said, what do you like about the Systema New Brunswick program? What have you learned? And one girl said to me, well, what I've discovered is that I can do hard things. I didn't know that before, but if I keep, when something's hard, I keep working at it, and then eventually it starts to sound good. And so she was saying what she didn't know that she was using one of our talking points, because that was what she experienced. But we see it time and again. And so that's where they begin to experience mastery. They begin to experience excellence at a high level. And it's not perfection, but it's the satisfaction of doing something really well. So we're not, the key word in our mission statement is inspiring. So we're not driving them, and we're not forcing them. It's not military. It's just joy and caring and challenging and saying you can do this. And then the fourth is ensemble based. So it's the togetherness. It's working together, achieving together, learning how to work with a stand mate, and realizing that it's the group effort that reaches that level of an audience being appreciative. It's because of the group effort. And also, I think it's amazing to watch their eyes when they're getting a standing ovation and they're standing there in these wide eyes. And I heard another story of a young musician who was 6 years old, first year in the program, and at his first concert, his parents didn't show up. And one of the teachers thought, oh, that's really sad. This little guy must be devastated. And he went out on the stage and he asked him, he said, Alex, how do you feel? And he was ready to kind of encourage him. And Alex looked up at him with big, wide eyes, and he said, I don't know, Peter, but I'm only 6 years old, and I'm already famous. So it was as if he didn't even notice that his parents weren't there. The standing ovation did it for him. So, and that's teachers that are inspiring them. And we're really blessed in New Brunswick to have so many of the Venezuelan. We were talking earlier. One of our teachers taught Ron years ago. So we're really benefiting from those who grew up in the El Sistema program. That has been a big key difference for us. Because they bring that DNA, and they're teaching us how to make it work. And I find some of them will argue with me when I say we're a social development that uses music as the tool, because they see it the other way. It's like we're a music program that produces excellent musicians, and there's a side benefit that there's a social aspect to it, a social. I think we're saying the same thing, but just looking at it from two different sides of the coin, maybe. So.
Great, Ken, thanks. I think the key we're hearing too is that kids, and kids of all ages, because I work with seniors of it too, they want to do something significant in their life. They want to accomplish something that matters, right? And sometimes I feel like we've lost that benchmark, that level of achievement. Adam.
Yeah, I feel a lot of resonance with what Elizabeth is saying, because again, Western music, classical music systems, they're not India's thing. Orchestras are not India's thing. I mean, since I've been in Chennai, I think there have been 5 orchestra performances, international orchestra, over the last decade and a half. And so we're struggling with almost bringing an alien foreign entity in and trying to persuade them why it's beneficial, or how it's beneficial, or if it is beneficial, and we end up questioning that. And almost in the opposite way on what you were saying, we never scaled. We very much deep dived into the musical training and have come across a lot of the difficulties on not scaling up the project quickly enough, because you become so vulnerable to people marrying or leaving, or persuading parents that music can be a career opportunity or that there are jobs there. And that's difficulty when you don't have another 10 violinists already learning, because you've focused so much on those first 5. We very much had to demonstrate more than the social aspect, more than here's music you've never listened to before and it's enjoyable and they're learning and they're getting educated, that there was a career path there. And it's, I remember very clearly in the first 4 or 5 years we had one unusually gifted viola player, really had taken it up to another level and got invited to take part in a classical quartet tour in Russia. And the quartet manager drew up a contract for him for this tour, and his fee for this tour was twice his father's annual salary. And small moments like that for those families, on seeing actually they're not lying, they're not trying to like hide, there is possibility here. And having to reinforce those moments like time and time again with parents, with an Indian government is interested in Indian music and only Indian music and will support Indian music projects. So as soon as you say Western music, they're like, why? We have a we're very lucky to have a very famous patron and boss, and AR is fantastic and deeply involved in it. But as soon as you have that level of celebrity behind it, the expectation level on the children suddenly goes off the scale. And funding opportunity, why does AR need money? He's rich. Why are we needing money for a program? AR can do it. All of those things begin to almost backstab the project itself. And I think we're only just beginning to kind of find our feet in relationship for scaling. We'd started a orphanage project in Northeast India in 2018. Actually, Vicky, who's hiding at the front here, we had a fantastic collaboration with Systema Scotland, and we brought these children from Northeast India who had never left their city. They'd never been on a plane, they'd never been with an orchestra, they had only been holding their violins for a few years, but they came and played that one line of melody. My students from Chennai had these deep, deep-rooted preconceptions of Vicky's students from Scotland. And they were like, these are posh, fancy, privileged kids coming over. And the magic in those 10 days of those kids interacting and teaching each other, here's Carnatic violin playing, here's Scottish folk playing, here let's have a ceilidh in the middle of the hall. It opened up the world to those students. They suddenly could travel. We had our first student get into a conservatoire 2 years ago, fully funded master's program, and those things just weren't even a thought. It's that level of transformation, trying to upscale it for a country the size of India, who knows? I mean, maybe it is a Systema model approach that can do that, because India is just on this brink of a kind of creative revolution that needs something like this coming in.
Adam, can you say a little bit more about Carnatic violin playing and Scottish fiddling in the culture of a classical orchestra? Like, I'm very intrigued about blurring these genre lines, right?
So that project, which was called Concert for Friendship, it was part of a British Council season of culture for UK and India. And originally it was supposed to be bringing performers from Venezuela and Scotland into India. And we were trying to find ways to break down those connections, which were language barriers, which were class barriers, which was mostly preconception barriers. And we discussed each orchestra learning folk tradition or local tradition from the others. Northeast India has a very different tradition from South India, and those two don't even speak to each other or have any idea. So the orchestras came together for 10 days. And Scottish fiddling and Carnatic slides are not as different as people may immediately think they are. So when our children were learning the Scottish, now I know the Scottish folk music, being Scottish, but I wasn't giving away that one. But when they were learning that, they played with a Carnatic slide on violin. And they have to interact with the young players from Scotland to be like, no, it's not quite that, but it's almost that. And that language build-up that communicative build-up was the barrier breakdown between them when they met each other.
So that becomes connecting tissue, right?
Yes.
Between cultures, where you can start to, you're discerning something new that deepens your understanding.
And further than that, we didn't have a wind program at that point. So the bassoon coming over, that was an instrument they'd never really seen. But as a double reed instrument, Nadashwaram in Chennai is a traditional double reeded instrument. And they were switching.
Yeah.
It was literally, oh, the reeds are the same, can you play this instrument? And they could. I now have a plan for a new bassoon army out of Chennai from Nadashwaram players.
Look out, bassoon world.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Do we have that video from Adams? Is that there? If it's not there, shall we show the video now and then we'll move on?
Not that one. Though I would love that to be us.
That's beautiful.
What was the video?
It was Sunshine Orchestra Reel, I think it was called. That's all right.
Thank you.
We can move on.
Let's move
You
on.
can look it up on YouTube. Not you, I'm saying the audience, sorry.
I just want to share with the. I just want to share with the honor panelists we have, talking about belonging, peer learning, you mentioned. You talk about sense of progress and inclusion, empowerment. They're key notes that we really are taking out. I want to clarify once again, so that I 100% agree what he mentioned about it. Of course, music, it's much more than a tool, but I would like to clarify the music itself, even if we know scientifically it's help with oxytocin, make you happy, music itself doesn't change people. Otherwise, you will not meet people who is doing really bad thing and play an instrument. It's very important. So it's the way that you learn music, it's the way that you are invited into music. That's who really make the transformation. And also I want, for example, in the program in Dream Orchestra, we are, why I'm saying is that we use as a tool is because also it's depending in where you are teaching your program. Because imagine if you have to teach in a school or in a center where I have to do it many times, I can have a plan of what is the impact they want to make it. But if I teach in a refugees camp, where probably I'm going to meet one kid and not going to meet again next week because they transfer, or I teach in a place like we have in Dream Orchestra when our kids probably is going to get deported and we don't know, then the social aspects come really important there, more than the music. So it's actually very important to have this importance, both worlds, like thinking that as a unique social and music are no one's bigger than other. And for me, it took me quite a long time because I come from Venezuela where music it's actually what made you change. Later on, when I have to deal with a question in my program, around we have parents, they are there waiting for the kids, and then we decide, and I think that's one of the unique things we are doing in Dream Orchestra, is that our parents who are coming from another countries are playing in the orchestra, in the same orchestra with the kids. And we do that for a reason, because these parents arriving, they don't have a network with anyone, and we also are helping them to be able us to translate, because then we have in one orchestra 25 different languages. And even if music, it can be a universal language, it's really difficult sometimes if the kids and everyone in the rooms are not understanding and learning the new language that you have to be part. So in our program, we have parents not sit next to the kids, they sit in the orchestra, like to helping us, and they are learning an instrument. Of course, there are moments they know they are voluntary, so they know there are moments where the kids only play themselves because you have to, proud them. But we also realize that now see Ukrainian moms meeting with the Swedish moms and find a way to get jobs and networking. And that happened because they are playing in the orchestra. In the beginning, we were thinking, oh, they're gonna meet outside and but didn't happen. So what we did was, okay, let's invite them to sit in the orchestra. And of course, then we have our academy orchestra, which is a little bit more advanced, and the parents are not playing there. But we wanted to create that space for the parents who was also arriving to a country to be able to make a network also with the whole society and inclusion in Sweden. And just to mention, doing that, we also, one of our questions in the beginning is, we don't want a refugees orchestra. We need people from locals, because otherwise the inclusion will not exist. So you cannot have, oh, this is a refugees orchestra. It's beautiful because they all can come from different countries, and this is one of very important things. People when come to a country, or these kids when come to a country, they bring a beautiful bag of culture, of knowledge, of their family's heritage. So it's beautiful to see how they can be inspired to each other. So that's why in the orchestra we have parents playing the orchestra, and we also focus of course, in the musical aspect really much, because it then is what the social change, but we see it as a unit.
Thank you, Ron. So we are open here, but we've been talking for about an hour, and I wonder if you would like to raise your voice and interject a question or a comment or get some clarification from one of the panel members. Anybody? Sure.
So, Ken mentioned that they do 1,500 hours a week, is that right?
3 hours a day, 5 days a week, and in the year, it averages about 600 hours of individual or of group lessons. Some of them get also individual lessons, so the 600 hours is. That's okay. No, yeah.
We're wondering if we teach about 90 minutes a week, or sometimes 30.
Sorry, I couldn't quite catch that.
We teach about 30 to 6.
Check. So we teach about 30 to 90 minutes a week of music, and we're wondering how you can keep them so engaged for that long.
Well, it's amazing teaching artists that keep them engaged. We bring, and I mentioned, and I'll use this as it's an important aspect of our program. I talked about the government support, but the government gives us a base level of funding, but it's really where we thrive is in fundraising in the community. The business community, philanthropists, foundations that fund the work that we're doing. And we bring them in to the center, and we give them a tour, and we show them the progression. The first year students the intermediates and the seniors, and almost without exception, by the time they've seen the children playing and the progression, you can see how quickly they advance. The visitors are in tears because they're just like, how do you do this? This is amazing. And I've seen day one with children who are 6 years old. We start them grade 1, grade 2, 6 years old, and they're slumped in their chairs and they're not paying attention. It was Pedro's class, you know Pedro. We were doing a tour on the first day, and it was like, this is not normally what we like to show people, but it was really revealing that this is how it starts. And so at one point, he lost their attention, and he said, okay, everybody, on your feet, go touch 4 walls, and then go back to your seat. So he just gave them an activity to go do something, and then they came back and sat down. Well, that was the first time I had seen maybe it was the first week, but I'm used to seeing Pedro's class after he's had them for a couple of months. And when you go in there, it's magical. Although I don't like that word magic, but it's masterful as a teacher. He has them, they're all sitting intensely focused on him. He's got these instructions. He calls it, Rachel maybe can help me. He's got 3 things. It's like ready position and super position. I can't remember. Anyway, he's got these 3, and it's like he says those words and they immediately respond. So they have the violins like this, holding them like this, and then when it's like super power position, and so they hold their violins up like that, and then playing position. So this is how he gets them to get to playing position, and they're all in unison, they're all focused, they're all disciplined, and they're all like happy and engaged and so proud to play and make good sounds for the visitors. We don't have to coax them, we don't have to convince them. So I don't really know. You would probably want to talk to someone like Ron, someone who teaches them how they do this, how they keep them engaged. But I'm just, as an observer, I see it day after day, and the kids are, I think they learn, someone like Sir Rachel, I'm almost ready to call you up here, but I won't. But Rachel's our center director from St. John, and she has 270 kids in that center. But I think it's the older ones modeling for the younger ones is an aspect of it. They learn very quickly that it's not the place to act out and to not pay attention because everyone else is focused, and so it influences the others. And
sorry, follow up to that. So they're practicing 3 hours a week. 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, 150 hours. You have to practice at home as well. They do.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do practice at home. I hear grandfathers have told me, like, pull out a video on their phone. This is my grandson. He's in the Fredericton program, and he said, he didn't do music before, but now he gets up before school to practice because he just loves it so much. And so there's this amazing thing that we see, and I think that the musical excellence is a piece of that. They're feeling really good about it. They're sounding good. They're and like if they play a bad note, it's not a failure, it's not defeat. It's like, oh, I need to practice more on this particular piece. So I don't know if that answers that question, but.
Sure, go ahead.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to the panel. My question is, anything is possible with government support. So the parents, what stake do they have in it other than their children being there? Do they have some sort of financial, do they have to pay money for this, or is this something that's just free?
It's free for the parents, and that's been our model for 16 years. The government doesn't pay 100%. They pay a substantial amount of money, but we've scaled, and the government funding hasn't scaled with us. So we have to fundraise more, higher and higher to make that work. But because of the outcomes that we're seeing in children's lives, and people, like I haven't mentioned this, but our graduates now, many of them are getting into the best music schools in the country or even outside of Canada with the top scholarships. And they're not just going into music. There's some going, I know of at least 3 or 4 who are going into pre-med. Many of them are going to university for the first time in their family. They'll say that, I'm the first kid in my family that I know of, for generations, that's going to university. So we have great outcomes that we're able to share with our funding partners, and they're inspired to give more, and they see it for themselves. They come to the concerts, they see the incredible level that these young ones, there were some as young as 12 years old, 11, 12 years old in the orchestra that we brought here, and they're phenomenal young musicians. So the music's inspiring to people, but we've kept it free, and we wouldn't be able to have reached, like we're at 1,400 children in the 11 centers. We wouldn't have been able to reach that without the partnership of funding from the government, space. They give us room in schools, which is becoming increasingly challenging because of the population growth. The space in school is we're getting squeezed out of some schools. And transportation. They also bus kids. We have feeder schools, and the school buses will bring those children from those feeder schools to our center. So it's been a big community project where it's not just any, it's a combination of all of these things that make it work.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we can all agree that the arts can have an impact on our day-to-day lives, especially when it comes to other subject areas. Elizabeth, I wanted to ask you the same question. How is your program supported? Is it Nairobi? Yes. How is it supported with parents, through the government, or in-kind donations? And then we have another question.
Thank you. So we get no government support, not a dime. And over the years, we have twice been fortunate enough to have big corporate adopt us, and that has helped a lot. That has helped us grow. What happened? It was actually a very, very interesting model. It was a telecom company, the biggest in Eastern Africa. It's called Safaricom. And what they did is they started a jazz festival. So as a corporate, they paid the cost of the festival, but every single ticket that was sold came to us. So every single shilling from that festival came to us, and that helped us go for about 10 years. But beyond that, what it did was it put us on the map, because they used their media power to also propel us. We made them look good. But best of all was that the jazz musicians who came through to us because of that jazz festival, because they come not just to perform, but they'd visit our program, play with our kids. Some long-term friendships have grown out of that, and they remain even today. And why I also say that is because you talked about in-kind. So 99.99% of our instruments are donations, and the accessories that come with them, the lessons that we get, the people who come through and give us master classes. Just last week, Wynton Marsalis and the Lincoln Jazz Orchestra were in town, and he played with our kids, and they got some master classes from the students there. So that sort of in-kind has kept us going. But cash to keep our bus fueled, to pay our tutors, that's still a big struggle for us. And actually now we're trying to see, yesterday I was saying about everybody's saying sustainability, how can you be sustainable? And like, oh my God, help me. Yeah. So that's our current struggle because, right now we don't have an angel investor, so to speak, and so we're looking for that. But yes, so in kind, we are doing so well. Money is a big challenge, and that's still needed, yeah.
Sorry, just another question, I guess also for you, Elizabeth. You talked about fostering, mental health and ensuring a safe classroom space. I'm just kind of curious in regards to when these students first receive their instruments in Kenya, what are some of the strategies that these current instructors are using to sort of get them to start performing and to really find that love of the music? I know it's an underrepresented youth, and they may have never seen the instruments or gotten the opportunity to ever hold one. What inspires them to keep going and stay in the program?
I actually, before I answer yours, I'll answer, there's a bit to your question that I didn't answer, which is about the parents and, what do they contribute? I mean, these are parents who can't even get 50 cents a day. It's really, really, really a struggle. And so for sure, we don't ask that they contribute anything except for school fees. I'm a bleeding heart, and everybody was calling me and saying, Elizabeth, my child is not in school. And so I'd be like, okay, we'll pay for you. But my team took me aside and said, Elizabeth, you are causing a problem. And so I was thrown out of that committee. And now at the beginning of every school year, we meet with the parents, and they must give something, even if it is 1 cent, so that they also own that responsibility. And so we try and get, even if it's in kind or something, the parent needs to give something, the lesson will be free. The kids, what motivates them, we've never done in all the years, we've never gone out to the community and said, hey, this is us, come. It's all word of mouth. So somebody will bring their sibling or their cousin or their neighbor, and by the time they come, they probably have an idea of, hey, I saw so-and-so playing this shiny instrument that's made of gold, and I want to play that one. And so most of the kids, and because we are teaching them formal music, it's not just jamming, and stuff. They can jam, but we are quite strict. The kind of child who comes to us is naturally inclined to working hard. They want more. It is the child that wants more and has a dream who comes to us. And so keeping them there is not, in fact, it's the opposite. It's sending them home at the end of the day. That's the challenge, because they don't want to go home. But what I was thinking as we were talking is that I don't want the message to come out that it is perfect and that it's always a happy story or a happy ending. Yeah. It isn't. And as much as we invest and we give and we share and we open, the world for our kids as much as we can. And that was the one thing I wanted to say, that through music, our kids get to see things they wouldn't see, places they wouldn't go, hotels that would never in a million years open the doors for my kids, like welcome. And that's really good. But sometimes it goes horribly wrong. And maybe it's because of the other stuff. Yes. I have a boy who 2 years ago was singing at the Vatican as part of this concert, and he was and you see a shining star and you paste them all over your social media pages, and you're like, but in a way you end up maybe destroying them, because like I was saying yesterday, the light is too bright for them. Yes. And what they've grown up with and the circumstances that they have outside of the gate of the compound cannot be solved by music. Yes, okay. And so as much as we try and do our best, there are also places where you are in tears and you are like, oh my God, we did something wrong. What was it? And how can we fix that? And that's where we try and do a lot of mentorship, and we bring in, we have friends around the city. I have psychologists, I have counselors, I have doctors, I have everything that I pick up the phone and I say, I have this problem child, and if we don't do something, we're going to lose them, and we're going to lose them in a big way. And so it's constantly also teaching our teachers to see beyond the instrument and see, okay, this kid is is in trouble. And having a referral system of how to put them on the path where we could be able to help them. I hope that's answered your question.
And for the teachers,
Yes.
support, because it's we get a study from a sociologist, and the sociologist came and he wrote, "Oh, the program is wonderful. You're caring with psychologists to students, and so important. But please." You also need to give support to your teachers who are receiving so much information. So yeah, I think mental health. So lovely what you just mentioned now.
I just had a question as well. You kind of spoke to some of this just now, actually, Elizabeth. Like in 2010, we started in Guyana. My family's from Guyana, and we started a music foundation. And it was actually, I was just helping. It was actually just inspired by a young girl that passed away that was from one of the orphanages there. And her family runs it currently, but none of them are music teachers. And so we rely on, we've done workshops to try and train teachers and that sort of thing. And we've kind of come into the same, I don't want to say problems, but what you kind of spoken to, where you also have to have the whole approach, right? So we do a lot of, medical treatment, like paying for medical treatments and food and that sort of thing as well. But we have a big issue where our orphanages, they age out at 16, and then their main focus becomes, other than music, right? Where are they going to go? What are we going to do? There's not a lot of funding. So I know you've spoken a little bit to that, but it's tough because sometimes we have to go, we've done enough. We can only do what we can do in the time that we have them. But is there, any insight that you can give or any experiences you can share about that, and just kind of knowing when you can kind of focus on the music and then focus on the whole child and kind of, and like you said as well, Ron, supporting the teachers as well, because we go through all of these things to a certain extent with them. Yes, absolutely, yeah. I know you kind of spoke to some of this already, but yeah.
I mean, it was a big lesson for me. When Adam was talking about A.R. Rahman and he said he doesn't know the admin side, and he just that's me. That's my problem. I wanted to do everything, and I wanted to change everything and be everywhere and know every single child. But now I can't. And so it has been, my lessons have been learning to build my team to be able to do that. And also being clear about what we can and cannot do, and make it very clear from the beginning. But more important, because I will not let things go, and I will follow, getting partners. So have a list of partners who can do what you can't do. So when you tell a child, we can't do this, you know where you're sending them to. And so we have a social worker, a trained social worker in our program, but especially for the girls, because I have a very big girl problem, and I don't mean it that they're bad, but so many other issues. As soon as they finish school, their parents expect them to bring money. They're not allowed to have that time where you're trying to figure out who you want to be and whatever. You finished your final high school exam, get to work. And so I lose a lot of girls that way. And so I also have one person who is dedicated to keeping our girls in our program. And through them now we have, like just today, Kenya is 7 hours ahead. KLM is a partner that gives us sanitary towels. Wow. So they bring sanitary towels enough for a year for our girls. So you just find different people who can do the things that you can't do.
Thank you.
And have a list in your office.
Thank
and on
you.
your phone.
Yeah.
We have time for a few more questions. Is there anyone else in the audience? All right, here you go.
Okay, my name's Rachel. I'm from New Brunswick. And I have a question for Ron. I just wanted to answer the 3 hours a day question because I've been doing it for a while, and what I find works the best if presumably your teachers are classically trained, you practice with your kids. And so I talk to them about Itzhak Perlman, 1 hour a day scales, 1 hour a day studies, 1 hour a day rep. We don't quite get to playing for 3 hours, but we push. And yeah, you do it enough and you have a good routine, the kids want more, and then they bring their instruments home and you give them a little mini plan for home, and it's pretty exciting. So try it out, it's really cool. My question for Ron, this parent orchestra, I'm really, really interested in that. I think that is an amazing way to engage the families and something that we could really use in our own program. Can you talk just a little bit about the logistics of how you do that, where the instruments come from, how often they sit in with their kids? I'm just really curious how you make it work.
We divide our programs, of course, in different orchestra, like many programs, and most of the parents can choose an instrument in what we call we have like small kids classes where they can be there, but we have one is called introduction. And introduction is where, this is an important thing, in our program we have the door opens the whole year. So even kids can join anytime. So it's not like it's starting in September, no. I mean, if it's October, they can start October. So, and that is really challenging because you already have new people, but since we are working with new arrivals, we cannot just wait, you have to wait for next year. So we have to always have an open door. And once the parents arrive to introduction orchestra, we have introductions orchestra where we always ask the parents what they would like to play, but we also kind of guide them to, if they would like to play some instruments, that we need support to sections. And sometimes they just want to help. And they are there, and they say, okay, viola or bassoon, or and they are part of this new world, and they are part of junior introduction and junior, and then we have kind of like young leaders and pre-young leaders, where they are not part because it's young leaders, so they're not part of that orchestra, but they can keep going with the junior orchestra, which play good repertoire. They rehearse every week. They are in these orchestras playing. We try to have a limited parents per orchestra, so if they are full, then we open another group or something like that, because we don't want to have like an adult orchestra for many reasons, safety and guardian policies, but we like to have at least 2 parents per section. So they are, and at the same, with that, we are building a community. When we have a seminar, they are the parents who do the foods. They are the parents who make the music stands and things. So we have this, talking about connecting this question with the question of the guy mentioned is, we don't have the privilege of being every day, because I think this is a pretty privileged situation. Most of the NGO programs are really striving with funding and trying to keep it going. And so that's why to build a community with the parents is so important, to be able to keep going. And I wanted to share one comment from a parent. She just started to join us from 1.5 years ago. And she told me, Ron, I come here with my son, but I have to tell you, she said, I left Ukraine. This is my medicine every week. So she is coming there, and I say, if we are making a medicine, or so what she says, to her, we know that we are giving a support that probably get a little bit of hope in her what she have to deal with. So go for it because it's really important to have the parent. As Elizabeth says, that you well say it, we can't fix everything. We can't. It's not possible. and we also need to know where our limitations. And we will have parents with post-traumatic, with different issues, and when we have that, we can offer music, but also we can offer this channel to connect with organizations who can support them by getting jobs, get a way of getting connected, and getting houses, because we have that problem. So where to connect, because they don't have place to live or things like that, or immigration policies or problems. So I think this orchestra for parents, it's just open the windows more to the community, just not the doors, but also the windows to everyone can be included.
Thank you. We've come to the end of our time, and I think we've seen demonstrated here one of our core values say that every child, every human being is entitled to the possibility of developing their musical potential. And in so many instances, without these models here, the children in your neighborhoods and your communities would not have that opportunity to develop their. So these are kind of pioneer models, and they're pretty big models, but I think what we can do in our own little circles is also ensure that the people we have some kind of oversight with and work with can find their musical voice and their musical potential. I want to thank the members of the panel, and I thank you. Let's show our appreciation. And I also want to thank our hosts here, and the tech crew, and Evelyn, everything's so professionally done. So thank you, and thanks for being 9 o'clockers. We appreciate you coming out so early, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.